Tonight, millions of people will lie in bed with tired bodies and minds that refuse to become quiet. They will replay unfinished tasks, feel guilty for wasting time, and wake tomorrow ready to repeat the same punishment. No prison walls surround them, yet they are never allowed to stop because the voice controlling them lives inside their own minds. It tells them that rest is laziness, silence is weakness, and their worth depends on how much they can endure. Buddhism does not teach you how to survive inside that prison. It teaches you how to recognize that the door has been open the entire time. These 7 lessons may help you finally walk out. 1. Stop treating exhaustion as a sign of success. Many people believe that being constantly busy means they are disciplined, successful, and important. They feel proud when they work without stopping and guilty when they rest, because rest seems lazy or unproductive. But exhaustion is not always proof that you are growing. Sometimes it is a warning that you have been ignoring your physical, mental, and emotional needs for too long. Buddhism teaches the middle way, which means avoiding both laziness and self-destruction. Effort is important, but effort must be balanced with awareness. A musical string produces no beautiful sound when it is too loose, but if it is pulled too tightly, it breaks. Your life works in the same way. Too little effort can keep you stuck, but too much pressure can damage your health, peace, and happiness. When you constantly push yourself, small problems begin to feel much bigger than they really are. You lose patience easily, your mind becomes confused, and even simple tasks feel heavy. The activities you once enjoyed may start feeling like responsibilities. At that point, you may think you need more discipline or motivation, but what you may truly need is sleep, silence, and time to recover. Learning to pause before you completely break down is not weakness, it is wisdom. 2. Your body often knows you need rest before your mind accepts it. Your body usually notices exhaustion before your mind is willing to admit it. It may speak through constant tiredness, headaches, tense shoulders, poor sleep, low energy, or a lack of interest in things you once enjoyed. These signs are not always small problems to ignore. They may be your body's way of telling you that you have been carrying too much for too long. The mind often responds by saying, "Keep going, you can rest later," or "Other people have it harder," but your body does not care about comparison. It only knows when it feels overwhelmed. You may continue working because you are afraid of falling behind, disappointing others, or appearing weak, but ignoring your limits does not make those limits disappear. Buddhist mindfulness teaches you to slow down and notice what is happening inside you without judgment. When you pause, you may realize that your jaw is tight, your breathing is shallow, or your whole body feels heavy. These feelings are not signs that your body is failing you. They are signs that it needs care, safety, and recovery. Do not wait until you completely collapse before taking rest seriously. Listening to your body early can protect your health, calm your mind, and prevent exhaustion from becoming deeper suffering. Your body is not asking you to give up. It is asking you to continue in a healthier way. 3. Constant busyness can become a way of escaping your pain. Not everyone stays busy because they enjoy working or because they have many important responsibilities. Sometimes people remain constantly busy because silence makes them uncomfortable. The moment they stop moving, painful thoughts begin to appear. Old memories return, loneliness becomes stronger, and emotions they have ignored for a long time finally come to the surface. To avoid feeling these things, they fill every empty moment with work, social media, entertainment, planning, helping others, or worrying about the next task. Busyness can make you feel productive, but it can also become a way of hiding from yourself. You may believe that you are moving forward when you are actually running away from something inside you. As long as your schedule remains full, you do not have to think about the relationship that hurt you, the disappointment you never accepted, or the sadness you have been carrying in silence. The problem is that avoiding pain does not remove it. It only pushes it deeper, where it continues affecting your thoughts, choices, and behavior. Buddhism teaches that suffering becomes stronger when we refuse to look at it clearly. Whatever you keep avoiding continues to control you from beneath the surface. Unhealed rejection may make you constantly seek approval from others. Unhealed betrayal may make it difficult for you to trust anyone. Unprocessed grief may turn into numbness, anger, or emotional distance. You may not understand why you react so strongly to small situations, but often the reaction is connected to pain you never allowed yourself to face. This is why healing requires stillness. You need moments when you are not performing, solving problems, pleasing others, or trying to appear strong. In quiet moments, you can begin to notice what your heart has been trying to tell you. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. You may feel sadness, fear, regret, or emptiness. But these emotions are not appearing to destroy you. They are appearing because they need to be understood and released. When painful feelings rise, do not immediately distract yourself or judge yourself. Sit quietly and allow them to be present for a moment. Notice where you feel them in your body and what thoughts come with them. You do not need to solve everything immediately. Simply recognizing your pain without running away from it is already a powerful step toward healing. Buddhist mindfulness teaches you to observe your emotions without becoming trapped inside them. You can say, "Sadness is here," instead of saying, "I will always be sad." You can notice fear without believing that fear defines your future. This gentle awareness helps you understand that emotions are temporary experiences, not permanent identities. You do not heal by staying busy until you forget yourself. You heal by creating enough quiet space to understand what has been hurting you. The moment you stop running from your pain, it slowly begins to lose its power over your life. 4. Rest is not something you must earn. Many people believe they are only allowed to rest after they have completed everything. They tell themselves they will slow down after finishing one more task, helping one more person, reaching one more goal, or solving one more problem. But when one responsibility ends, another one quickly appears. Because of this, rest keeps getting delayed, and the mind never feels that it has done enough. This belief often begins when a person learns to connect their value with achievement. Perhaps you received praise only when you performed well, stayed strong, helped others, or met expectations. Over time, you may have started believing that your worth depends on how useful, productive, or available you are. Now, when you sit quietly, you feel guilty. Even during rest, your mind reminds you of everything you should be doing. You may call yourself lazy for needing sleep, weak for feeling tired, or selfish for taking time away from other people. But needing rest does not mean there is something wrong with you. It means you are human. Your body and mind were never designed to work under pressure every hour of every day. Just as hunger tells you to eat and thirst tells you to drink, exhaustion tells you that something inside you needs care. Buddhism teaches compassion toward all living beings, but many people forget to include themselves. They speak gently to a tired friend but harshly to themselves. They encourage others to take a break, yet feel ashamed when they need one. They forgive another person for having limits while punishing themselves for the same thing. This is not true compassion, because compassion that excludes you is incomplete. Rest does not have to be useful to be valuable. You do not need to turn every quiet moment into meditation, self-improvement, planning, or learning. Sometimes rest simply means lying down, sitting in silence, taking a slow walk, drinking tea without checking your phone, or spending time away from people who constantly demand your attention. These simple moments allow your nervous system to calm down and remind your mind that it is safe to stop. The world will continue moving while you pause. Messages may remain unanswered, tasks may wait, and some people may not understand why you need space. That does not mean you are doing something wrong. Not every request deserves an immediate response, and not every problem belongs to you. Sometimes protecting your energy is more important than proving that you are always available. You may also fear that resting will cause you to fall behind, but when you are deeply exhausted, continuing to push yourself often leads to mistakes, anger, poor decisions, and loss of motivation. Rest helps you return with clearer thinking and greater patience. It does not take you away from your purpose. It helps you approach your purpose without destroying yourself. True rest begins when you stop asking for permission. You do not need to wait until your body breaks down or your mind becomes completely overwhelmed. You are allowed to pause before reaching that point. You are allowed to care for yourself while there are still unfinished tasks. Your value does not disappear when you stop working, because your worth was never meant to depend on how much you can produce. When you finally understand this, rest no longer feels like failure. It becomes an act of wisdom, self-respect, and healing. 5. You cannot heal in the same environment that keeps wounding you. Rest is powerful, but rest alone may not heal you if you keep returning to the same people, places, habits, and situations that continue to drain you. You may sleep for many hours, take a short break, or spend a peaceful day alone, but if you return to an environment filled with criticism, pressure, disrespect, and emotional confusion, your exhaustion will quickly come back. This is because your body may have rested, but the cause of your suffering is still present. You can meditate every morning, listen to peaceful teachings, and remind yourself to stay calm, but if you spend the rest of your day allowing people to cross your boundaries, your mind will remain disturbed. You can take a weekend away from everything, but 2 quiet days cannot repair a life in which you are constantly pleasing others, hiding your feelings, and ignoring your own needs. Healing requires rest, but it also requires honesty about what keeps hurting you. Buddhism teaches that suffering appears because of causes and conditions. When those causes continue, the suffering continues. If a fire is burning, you do not only sit beside it and hope the heat becomes easier to tolerate, you stop adding more wood. In the same way, you must notice what keeps feeding your pain, instead of only trying to become stronger while remaining inside it. Sometimes the cause is a relationship in which you give your time, energy, and love, but receive very little care in return. You may keep forgiving the same behavior because you are afraid of losing the person. You may continue explaining your pain to someone who has already shown that they do not want to understand it. Over time, you become emotionally tired because you are trying to create peace with someone who keeps bringing chaos into your life. The cause may also be a workplace that expects you to sacrifice your health, sleep, and happiness just to prove your dedication. You may believe that being constantly available will make people respect you, but instead, they may simply become used to your lack of boundaries. When you never say no, others may begin to believe that your time and energy have no limits. Sometimes the environment is not only outside you. It may also exist inside your own mind. You may speak to yourself with constant criticism, compare your progress with everyone else, or demand perfection from yourself every day. Even when no one is pressuring you, your inner voice may continue repeating that you are not doing enough. In this way, you carry the harmful environment with you wherever you go. Buddhism does not teach you to use peace as a reason to tolerate mistreatment. Being calm does not mean remaining silent while people repeatedly hurt you. Compassion does not mean giving everyone unlimited access to your life. Forgiveness does not require you to return to the same situation and allow the same wound to happen again. Sometimes healing requires distance. It may mean speaking less to someone who constantly leaves you feeling drained. It may mean refusing a responsibility that was never truly yours. It may mean leaving a place where you are not respected, asking for help, or admitting that a relationship is damaging your peace. These choices can feel painful because you may still care about the people involved, but caring about someone does not mean you must continue suffering because of them. When you begin setting boundaries, some people may call you selfish, cold, or different. Often, these are the same people who were comfortable when you had no boundaries. They may not be upset because you are doing something wrong. They may be upset because they no longer have the same control over your time, attention, and energy. You must understand that protecting your peace will sometimes disappoint people. Their disappointment is not proof that your decision is wrong. You are not responsible for keeping everyone comfortable while you silently fall apart. Your life also deserves care, safety, and respect. Healing becomes possible when your outer life begins to support your inner peace. This does not mean you must remove every difficult person or avoid every uncomfortable situation. Life will always contain challenges. It means learning the difference between temporary difficulty and repeated harm. A challenge can help you grow, but an environment that constantly destroys your confidence and peace will slowly weaken you. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people or in certain places. Do you feel calm, respected, and free to be yourself? Or do you feel anxious, small, confused, and emotionally tired? Your feelings are not always the complete truth, but they can reveal important patterns that your mind has been trying to ignore. You cannot heal while constantly returning to what breaks you. Resting for a few hours and then entering the same cycle will only give you enough energy to continue suffering. Real healing begins when you not only rest from the pain, but also stop feeding the conditions that create it. Sometimes the most peaceful decision is not learning how to tolerate more, but finally choosing what no longer deserves a place in your life. 6. Pausing helps you see clearly what constant effort hides. When you are constantly moving, working, solving problems, helping people, and thinking about what must happen next, you may feel productive, but you are not always seeing your life clearly. A busy mind reacts quickly, follows habits automatically, and keeps repeating familiar patterns without asking whether those patterns are still healthy. You may continue doing the same things simply because you have done them for a long time, not because they are still right for you. Constant effort can create so much noise that you stop hearing your own thoughts. You wake up thinking about responsibilities, spend the day responding to people, and go to sleep worrying about tomorrow. There is always another task, another message, another goal, or another problem waiting for your attention. Because your mind is always occupied, you rarely stop long enough to ask whether the life you are working so hard to maintain is actually bringing you peace. You may believe that moving quickly means you are making progress, but speed does not always mean direction. A person can run very fast and still move toward the wrong destination. In the same way, you can work hard every day and still build a life that does not feel like your own. You may be chasing goals that once mattered to you, but no longer match the person you have become. You may be trying to impress people whose approval cannot give you lasting happiness. This is why pausing is so important. A pause creates a small space between what happens to you and how you respond. Without that space, you may react from anger, fear, exhaustion, or old habits. With that space, you can observe what is happening and choose your next step more wisely. You may still face the same problem, but you will no longer face it with a mind controlled by pressure. Buddhist mindfulness teaches you to notice before you react. It teaches you to observe your thoughts, emotions, and desires without immediately obeying them. A thought may enter your mind and tell you that you are failing, falling behind, or disappointing everyone. Mindfulness helps you recognize that this is a thought, not necessarily the truth. You can hear it without allowing it to direct your entire life. When you pause, you begin to see how often urgency controls your decisions. Everything may appear important when your mind is overwhelmed, but not everything deserves the same amount of attention. Some problems need action, some need patience, and some need to be released completely. A tired mind often cannot tell the difference, so it treats every small issue like an emergency. You may answer messages immediately because you are afraid that someone will be upset. You may agree to responsibilities before considering whether you have the time or energy. You may make important decisions simply because you want the discomfort to end. Later, you realize that you acted too quickly and ignored what you truly needed. A pause gives you the chance to ask whether your response comes from wisdom or fear. Stillness can also reveal why you are working so hard. You may tell yourself that you are pursuing success, but beneath that ambition may be a desire to prove your worth. Perhaps someone once made you feel weak, unimportant, or incapable, and now you are trying to build a life that proves them wrong. You may achieve many things, but if your effort is driven by an old wound, success may never feel like enough. Every achievement may give you relief for a short time, but soon the emptiness returns. You set another goal, work even harder, and promise yourself that the next success will finally make you feel complete. But no amount of achievement can permanently heal a wound that needs understanding and compassion. Pausing helps you see whether your ambition comes from joy or from fear that you will not be worthy without it. You may also discover that some of the people you are chasing do not bring peace into your life. When you are emotionally attached, you may focus only on keeping them close. You ignore how anxious, confused, or unimportant you feel around them. You keep trying to improve the relationship because admitting the truth feels more painful than continuing the struggle. Constant effort can make you believe that every relationship can be saved if you try hard enough. You explain yourself more clearly, give another chance, become more patient, and sacrifice more of your needs. Yet the relationship continues to hurt because the problem is not your lack of effort. The other person may not be willing to meet you with the same honesty, care, and respect. A pause helps you stop asking, "How can I make this person stay?" and begin asking, "Why am I fighting so hard to remain where I do not feel valued?" This question may be uncomfortable, but it can free you from years of unnecessary suffering. Sometimes clarity arrives when you stop trying to fix the relationship and honestly observe what the relationship has been doing to your peace. Buddhism teaches that attachment can make us see what we want to see instead of what is actually present. We become attached to an idea of a person, a future, or a result. We keep hoping that something will change, so we ignore the reality in front of us. Stillness helps you separate hope from truth. It allows you to see whether you are holding on because something is healthy or because you are afraid of letting go. Pausing can also reveal that you have been living according to other people's expectations. You may have chosen a career, lifestyle, relationship, or identity because it pleased your family, impressed society, or made you appear successful. From the outside, your life may look complete, but inside, you may feel disconnected from yourself. When every day is full, you do not have time to notice this disconnection. You continue following the plan because changing direction feels difficult. You may fear disappointing people, wasting the years you have already invested, or starting again. But a life that looks successful while making you feel empty is not true success. In quiet moments, you may finally hear a truth that has been waiting inside you for years. You may realize that you want a simpler life, a different direction, more meaningful work, or relationships that feel calm instead of confusing. These realizations do not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes they come as a soft feeling that says, "I cannot continue living this way." Do not ignore that feeling. It may be the beginning of wisdom. Buddhism does not teach that you must abandon every responsibility or walk away whenever life becomes difficult. It teaches awareness. Awareness helps you recognize the difference between temporary discomfort that helps you grow and ongoing suffering that comes from living against your own truth. Pausing also helps you notice your emotional patterns. You may realize that you become angry whenever you feel ignored, anxious whenever someone becomes distant, or defensive whenever you receive criticism. Without reflection, you may blame the situation or the other person. With stillness, you can begin to understand where the reaction comes from. Perhaps being ignored reminds you of a time when your feelings were never taken seriously. Perhaps distance creates fear because someone important once left you without explanation. Perhaps criticism feels unbearable because you already speak harshly to yourself. When you understand the deeper cause of your reaction, you gain the ability to respond differently. Mindfulness does not remove emotions. It changes your relationship with them. Instead of being controlled by anger, you can notice anger rising in your body. Instead of immediately speaking, sending a message, or making a decision, you can breathe and wait. The emotion may still be present, but it no longer has complete control over your behavior. This space can protect you from choices you later regret. Many arguments become worse because two exhausted people respond immediately to each other's pain. One hurtful sentence creates another, and soon both people are defending themselves instead of understanding each other. A pause can interrupt that cycle. It gives you time to choose words that come from clarity rather than emotional pressure. Pausing does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means entering them with awareness. You can still speak honestly, protect your boundaries, and say what needs to be said. The difference is that you are no longer speaking only to release your anger. You are speaking because you understand your feelings and know what outcome you want. Stillness may also show you how often you create suffering by trying to control what cannot be controlled. You may spend hours worrying about what other people think, how they will behave, whether they will stay, or whether the future will happen according to your plans. This constant mental effort creates exhaustion because your mind is trying to manage things that do not belong to you. You cannot control another person's feelings, decisions, maturity, or honesty. You cannot control every event that may happen tomorrow. You can only control how carefully you respond, what boundaries you create, and where you place your energy. Pausing helps you remember this. It brings your attention back from an imagined future to the present moment. The present moment is often much simpler than the story in your mind. In this moment, you may only need to breathe, complete one task, drink water, or rest. But the mind adds tomorrow's problems, yesterday's regrets, other people's opinions, and fears that may never become real. Suddenly, one small moment feels impossible to carry. Buddhist practice teaches you to return to what is happening now. This does not mean ignoring the future or refusing to plan. It means refusing to suffer repeatedly over events that have not yet happened. When you pause, you can ask, what is actually required of me in this moment? The answer is usually smaller and clearer than the pressure your mind has created. A pause can also help you recognize what you truly need. When you are moving quickly, you may mistake distraction for rest, attention for love, and achievement for fulfillment. You may scroll through your phone for hours and call it relaxation, even though your mind feels more exhausted afterward. You may seek messages and compliments because you want connection, but temporary attention cannot replace genuine care. Stillness allows you to feel the difference. You begin to notice which activities restore your energy and which only help you avoid yourself. Real rest leaves you calmer, clearer, and more connected. Distraction may numb you temporarily, but when it ends, the same exhaustion remains. You may discover that what you need is not another hour online, but a quiet walk, deeper sleep, an honest conversation, time in nature, or space away from constant demands. You may need to cry, write down your thoughts, or simply sit without trying to improve anything. These needs become easier to recognize when the noise around you becomes quieter. Pausing can feel difficult because it removes the distractions that help you avoid uncomfortable truths. You may become aware of sadness, regret, loneliness, or uncertainty. You may question choices that once seemed certain. This does not mean the pause is harming you. It means awareness is revealing what busyness kept hidden. Muddy water looks unclear when it is constantly stirred. If you continue moving it, you cannot see through it. But when you leave it alone, the dirt slowly settles and the water becomes clear. Your mind works in a similar way. You cannot force clarity by thinking harder while you are overwhelmed. Sometimes clarity comes when you stop adding more thoughts and allow the mind to settle. This is why the answer to confusion is not always more effort. Sometimes the answer is less noise. You may need to step away from the conversation, sleep before deciding, or spend a day without asking everyone for advice. When you depend on too many opinions, your own voice becomes difficult to hear. Other people may have useful guidance, but they cannot fully understand what brings peace to your heart. Some people will advise you according to their fears, values, and experiences. They may tell you to stay in a situation they would tolerate, or leave something they personally dislike. A pause allows you to listen to advice without losing your own judgment. Ask yourself what you would choose if you were not trying to impress, please, or prove anything to anyone. This question can reveal desires that you have buried beneath responsibility. Perhaps you would slow down, change direction, spend more time with people you love, or stop chasing something that has never made you happy. You do not need to make a dramatic decision immediately. Clarity does not require sudden action. Sometimes the wisest step is to notice the truth and allow yourself time to understand it. You can make changes gradually, carefully, and responsibly. The purpose of pausing is not to escape your life, but to return to it with greater awareness. Create small moments of stillness each day. Sit quietly for a few minutes before checking your phone in the morning. Take several slow breaths before responding when you feel angry. Walk without filling every moment with music, videos, or messages. Allow yourself to eat one meal without distraction and notice how your body feels. These practices may appear simple, but they teach your mind that it does not need to react to everything immediately. Over time, you begin to feel less controlled by urgency. You become more comfortable with silence and more aware of the thoughts that guide your choices. During these pauses, ask yourself clear and honest questions. Ask, what am I afraid will happen if I stop? You may discover that you fear appearing lazy, being forgotten, disappointing people, or facing emotions you have avoided. Naming the fear makes it easier to understand. Ask, whose approval am I trying to earn? You may realize that you are still working for recognition from someone who may never give it. You may be trying to prove yourself to a parent, former partner, friend, or society. Understanding this can help you stop building your life around an audience that cannot give you inner peace. Ask, what am I continuing only because I have already spent so much time on it? Sometimes people remain in unhealthy situations because they do not want their past effort to feel wasted. But continuing to suffer will not recover the time already spent. Wisdom means choosing what is healthy now, even if the decision comes later than you wish. Ask, what part of my life feels heavy because it no longer belongs to me? The answer may be a responsibility, relationship, goal, or identity. You may have carried it for so long that you forgot you were allowed to put it down. Recognizing what no longer belongs to you can create a deep sense of relief. Ask, what does my mind need less of, and what does my heart need more of? Perhaps your mind needs less comparison, noise, criticism, and constant information. Perhaps your heart needs more honesty, quiet, kindness, creativity, or meaningful connection. These answers can guide you toward a life that supports healing instead of constantly interrupting it. Do not demand immediate answers from yourself. The mind may need time before it feels safe enough to reveal the truth. Some answers appear slowly through repeated moments of stillness. You may notice the same feeling returning, the same thought appearing, or the same situation draining you again and again. Patterns become easier to see when you stop rushing past them. Pausing is not doing nothing, it is creating the conditions for understanding. A farmer does not constantly dig up a seed to check whether it is growing. The seed needs darkness, stillness, water, and time. In the same way, your mind needs moments when it is not being pressured to perform. When you allow yourself to pause, you may not immediately feel peaceful. At first, you may feel restless, because your mind has become used to constant stimulation. You may reach for your phone, think about unfinished work, or feel guilty. This is normal. Stillness is a practice, especially for someone who has spent years believing that stopping is dangerous. Remain patient with yourself. Begin with a few minutes and let your capacity for stillness grow naturally. You do not need to force your mind to become empty. Simply notice what appears and return gently to your breath. The purpose is not perfection. The purpose is awareness. As your mind becomes quieter, your priorities begin to change. You may stop caring so deeply about things that once controlled you. Other people's opinions may lose some of their power. You may become less interested in proving yourself and more interested in protecting your peace. What once looked urgent may begin to look unnecessary. This is one of the gifts of pausing. It removes you from the pressure of the moment and helps you see your life from a wider view. You remember that one difficult day is not your entire life, one person's rejection does not define your worth, and one mistake does not destroy your future. You begin to understand that rest is not an interruption of wisdom. Rest is often where wisdom becomes possible. When the body is less exhausted and the mind is less crowded, you can see choices that were invisible before. You can recognize what deserves your effort and what has only been consuming it. Constant pushing may help you continue, but it cannot always tell you where you are going. A pause gives you the opportunity to look at the path beneath your feet and decide whether it still leads toward the life you want. You do not have to stop forever. You only need to stop long enough to hear yourself again. When your mind becomes clear, you can move forward with intention instead of fear. You can work without worshipping exhaustion, love without abandoning yourself, and make decisions without allowing pressure to control you. Sometimes the greatest progress does not happen when you take another step. It happens when you pause, look honestly at your life, and finally understand which direction is worth taking. 7. Healing happens through gentle consistency, not force. Many people approach healing in the same way they approach work, achievement, and responsibility. They create strict rules, demand quick results, and become frustrated when their pain does not disappear according to their schedule. They tell themselves that they should be stronger by now, that they should have moved on, or that they should no longer feel affected by what happened. But healing does not respond well to pressure. The harder you force yourself to recover, the more you may turn healing into another burden you must carry. You cannot command your heart to stop hurting simply because enough time has passed. You cannot order your nervous system to feel safe after years of fear, pressure, or emotional pain. You cannot shame yourself into becoming peaceful. Healing begins when you stop treating your wounded parts like problems that must be fixed quickly and start treating them like parts of you that need patience, care, and understanding. Buddhism teaches that force often creates more resistance. When you fight an emotion, it becomes stronger because your mind is now carrying both the original pain and the struggle against it. You feel sad, and then you criticize yourself for feeling sad. You feel tired, and then you call yourself lazy. You feel afraid, and then you become ashamed of your fear. The second layer of judgment often creates more suffering than the emotion itself. Gentle awareness removes that second layer. Instead of saying, "I should not feel this way," you can say, "This feeling is here, and I will listen to what it needs." Instead of demanding that the pain disappear immediately, you can allow it to move through you at its own pace. This does not mean surrendering your life to sadness or remaining stuck forever. It means refusing to become cruel toward yourself while you are already suffering. Healing is usually not one dramatic moment in which everything suddenly becomes clear. It is often built through small choices repeated over time. You may begin by going to bed earlier instead of forcing yourself to remain awake while your mind is exhausted. You may eat something nourishing instead of ignoring your body all day. You may take a quiet walk, breathe deeply, write down what you feel, or speak honestly to someone you trust. These actions may appear simple, but they slowly teach your body and mind that your needs matter. Every small act of care sends a message to the wounded parts of you. It says, I am no longer going to abandon you. When you rest before reaching complete exhaustion, you show yourself that your limits deserve respect. When you say no to something that drains you, you show yourself that your peace has value. When you stop chasing someone who repeatedly hurts you, you show yourself that love does not require self-destruction. These choices may not create immediate happiness, but they create safety. Safety is one of the most important conditions for healing. A mind that constantly feels threatened cannot easily become peaceful. A body that expects the next demand, argument, disappointment, or rejection remains tense, even during quiet moments. It may take time before your whole being understands that it is finally allowed to relax. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. One peaceful day cannot undo years of neglect, just as one good night of sleep cannot remove deep exhaustion. Healing happens when care becomes a pattern instead of an occasional emergency response. You do not wait until you completely break down before listening to yourself. You begin noticing your needs earlier and responding before the pain becomes overwhelming. Imagine a plant that has been left without water for a long time. Pouring an entire bucket of water over it once will not immediately restore its health. It needs the right amount of water, sunlight, protection, and time. Too much force can damage it just as easily as neglect. Your healing also requires steady care rather than one extreme attempt to change everything at once. People often create unrealistic healing plans because they are desperate to feel different. They decide that tomorrow they will completely change their routine, remove every bad habit, become emotionally strong, meditate for hours, exercise every day, and stop thinking about the past. For a few days, they may follow the plan, but the pressure quickly becomes exhausting. When they cannot maintain it, they feel like failures and become even more disappointed in themselves. Gentle consistency takes a different approach. It asks, what small act can I repeat without harming myself? Perhaps you can begin with 10 quiet minutes in the morning. Perhaps you can put your phone away before sleeping, drink more water, or stop responding immediately to messages that disturb your peace. Perhaps you can give yourself one evening each week without responsibilities that are not truly necessary. Small actions are powerful because they can become part of your life. Healing is not about performing perfectly for a short period. It is about building a way of living that supports your mind, body, and heart over time. A small, healthy habit, repeated for months, can transform you more deeply than one intense effort that leaves you exhausted after a few days. You must also understand that healing is not a straight line. There will be days when you feel calm, strong, and hopeful. You may believe that you have finally moved beyond the pain. Then, a memory, conversation, place, or unexpected event may bring old emotions back. You may feel disappointed and think that all your progress has disappeared. But returning pain does not mean you have returned to the beginning. You may be facing the same emotion with greater awareness than before. In the past, it may have controlled you for weeks. Now it may disturb you for one day. In the past, you may have blamed yourself, chased someone, or made harmful decisions. Now you may recognize what is happening, breathe, and give yourself space. Progress is not always measured by never feeling pain again. Sometimes it is measured by how gently you respond when pain returns. The memory may still exist, but it no longer controls your entire identity. The emotion may still rise, but you no longer believe that it will remain forever. You understand that feelings move like weather. They appear, change, and eventually pass. Buddhism teaches impermanence, the understanding that nothing remains exactly the same. Joy changes, sadness changes, relationships change, bodies change, and thoughts change. Your pain is also not permanent, even when it feels endless. However, impermanence does not mean that you can rush change. It means you can trust that change is already happening, even when you cannot clearly see it. A wound may be healing beneath the surface before there is any visible sign. In the same way, your mind may be slowly releasing old fear while you still experience difficult days. You may be learning new boundaries, developing self-respect, and becoming more honest with yourself, even if you do not yet feel completely peaceful. Do not destroy this quiet progress by comparing your healing with someone else's. Two people can experience similar events and recover in very different ways. One person may appear to move on quickly, while another needs more time. This does not mean one is stronger. Everyone carries a different history, emotional capacity, support system, and way of processing pain. Social media can make comparison especially harmful. You may see someone smiling, succeeding, traveling, or entering a new relationship and assume they have completely healed. You compare their visible life with your private struggle and conclude that something is wrong with you. But you do not know what exists behind their appearance. Healing is personal, and it cannot be measured through another person's timeline. Your responsibility is not to heal faster than everyone else. Your responsibility is to heal honestly. Honest healing does not hide pain simply to look strong. It does not pretend to forgive before the heart is ready. It does not enter a new relationship only to prove that the old one no longer matters. It allows truth to exist without turning that truth into a permanent prison. Gentleness does not mean that you never challenge yourself. Healing sometimes requires difficult action. You may need to have an honest conversation, leave an unhealthy situation, ask for help, or face a memory you have avoided. The difference is that you do these things with care rather than punishment. You challenge yourself because you want freedom, not because you hate the person you currently are. There is a great difference between discipline and cruelty. Discipline says, "This is difficult, but I will take one healthy step." Cruelty says, "You are weak if you cannot do everything immediately." Discipline respects your limits while helping you grow. Cruelty ignores your limits and then blames you when you collapse. Buddhist practice encourages right effort, which means using energy wisely. Right effort is not endless force. It is learning what should be encouraged, what should be reduced, and when the mind needs rest. Sometimes right effort means continuing, even when something is difficult. At other times, it means stopping before your effort becomes harmful. You can practice this by noticing the tone of your inner voice. When you make a mistake, do you guide yourself or attack yourself? When you feel tired, do you listen or accuse yourself of being lazy? When old pain returns, do you become curious about what triggered it, or do you shame yourself for not being over it? Your inner voice becomes the environment in which your healing takes place. If that environment is filled with criticism, pressure, and rejection, your wounded parts will remain afraid. If it becomes patient, honest, and supportive, healing becomes easier. You do not need to speak to yourself with false positivity. You simply need to speak with the same humanity you would offer someone you deeply care about. Imagine that a frightened child is sitting beside you. The child has been hurt, abandoned, or made to feel unsafe. Would you shout, "Why are you not better yet?" Would you tell them that others have suffered more, so their tears do not matter? Would you demand that they immediately become productive and stop causing inconvenience? You would probably sit near them, lower your voice, and allow them to feel safe. You would not expect perfect words. You would remain present until they felt less alone. The wounded parts of you need this same kind of presence. They do not need another person inside your mind, repeating the criticism they have already received from the world. Many adults continue treating themselves according to the harshness they experienced earlier in life. If they were ignored, they ignore their own emotions. If they were constantly criticized, they criticize themselves before anyone else can. If they were loved mainly when they achieved something, they refuse to rest unless they have been productive. Healing means ending this pattern. It means deciding that the pain you received will not become the way you continue treating yourself. You may not be able to change what happened, but you can change the relationship you now have with yourself. You can become the person who listens, protects, and stays. This relationship is built through ordinary moments. It grows when you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one. It grows when you leave a conversation that becomes disrespectful. It grows when you stop explaining your boundaries to people who refuse to respect them. It grows when you choose sleep instead of spending another night replaying something you cannot change. Trust in yourself is not built through motivational words alone. It is built when your actions show that you will not repeatedly abandon yourself. Every time you listen to your limits, follow your truth, or protect your peace, your mind learns that it can depend on you. There may be times when healing requires support from others. Buddhism values wise companionship because the people around you can influence your mind and direction. You do not have to carry every wound alone. Speaking with a trustworthy person, a qualified professional, or a supportive community can help you understand what feels too heavy to process by yourself. Asking for help is not failure. It is a form of awareness. You recognize that your pain deserves more support than you can currently provide alone. Just as you would seek help for a serious physical wound, you can seek guidance when emotional suffering repeatedly interrupts your life. Choose support carefully. Not everyone deserves access to your most vulnerable experiences. Some people listen only to judge, gossip, or make the conversation about themselves. Safe support comes from someone who can listen without making you feel ashamed, rushed, or weak. Their role is not to control your healing, but to help you feel less alone while you move through it. You should also allow joy to become part of healing. Some people believe they must remain serious and focused on their pain until every wound is completely understood. But healing is not only about examining sadness. It is also about remembering that life still contains beauty, connection, laughter, creativity, and simple moments of peace. You are allowed to enjoy something even while part of you is still hurting. You can laugh and still be healing. You can feel grateful and still miss someone. You can have a peaceful day without betraying the pain you experienced. Joy does not erase your suffering. It reminds you that suffering is not the only thing that exists. Gentle healing creates room for both emotions. You do not force sadness away, but you also do not refuse happiness when it appears. You let each experience arrive without turning it into a permanent identity. You understand that the heart can carry grief and gratitude at the same time. It is also important to forgive yourself for the ways you survived. Perhaps you stayed too long in a harmful situation, ignored warning signs, trusted someone who hurt you, or made choices from fear. Looking back with today's knowledge may make your past actions appear foolish, but the person you were then did not have the understanding you have now. You may have done what felt necessary to receive love, avoid abandonment, remain safe, or keep your life from falling apart. This does not mean every choice was healthy, but endless self-punishment will not change it. Learn from what happened without turning the lesson into hatred toward your past self. Say, "I understand why I made that choice, and I will choose differently now." This response contains both responsibility and compassion. You are not denying the mistake, but you are refusing to remain trapped inside it. Healing becomes possible when regret turns into wisdom rather than permanent shame. Forgiving yourself may require repetition. The mind may return to the same moment and ask why you allowed it to happen. Each time, answer with patience. Remind yourself that awareness developed through experience. The fact that you now see the situation differently is proof that you have grown. Healing also asks you to release the fantasy that one final answer will make everything disappear. You may believe that you need an apology, explanation, conversation, or perfect ending before you can move forward. Sometimes those things help, but they are not always available. The person who hurt you may never understand what they did. They may refuse responsibility, disappear, or offer an explanation that does not bring peace. If your healing depends entirely on someone else's words, You leave your freedom in their hands. Gentle consistency helps you create closure through your own actions. You stop reopening the wound, reduce contact, accept what their behavior revealed, and build a life that no longer depends on their recognition. Closure is often not one conversation. It is the repeated decision to stop returning to what has already shown you that it cannot provide peace. It is waking up and choosing not to check their page, not to send another message, and not to replay the imaginary future you wanted with them. At first, these choices may feel painful. Your mind may interpret distance as loss, even when the situation was unhealthy. But each time you protect yourself, the attachment becomes weaker. One day, you realize that you have gone several hours without thinking about it, then several days. The change happens quietly through consistent decisions. The same process applies to habits that damage your peace. You may not remove every harmful habit at once. Begin by noticing when it appears and what emotion usually comes before it. Perhaps you scroll endlessly when you feel lonely, overwork when you feel unworthy, or seek attention when you feel rejected. Instead of attacking the habit, understand the need beneath it. Then create a healthier response. When loneliness appears, contact someone safe or spend time in a place that feels grounding. When unworthiness appears, complete one meaningful task without forcing yourself to prove everything. When rejection appears, remind yourself that another person's decision does not measure your value. This approach is slower than punishment, but it reaches the real cause. Harshness may temporarily suppress behavior, but understanding allows transformation. You stop fighting only the visible habit and begin caring for the wound that created it. There will be moments when you become impatient. You may ask why the process is taking so long. In those moments, remember how long you carried the pain before you began listening to it. Some wounds were created through years of neglect, pressure, betrayal, or self-abandonment. It is unfair to demand that they disappear in a few days. A flower does not bloom faster because you pull on its petals. In fact, forcing it can destroy what is naturally unfolding. Your healing also has a rhythm. Your task is not to control every stage, but to provide the conditions that allow growth, rest, honesty, boundaries, support, patience, and consistent care. Some days, the most meaningful healing action may be very small. It may be getting out of bed, taking a shower, opening the curtains, or eating a proper meal. Do not insult these actions because they appear ordinary. During difficult seasons, simple care can require great courage. Celebrate progress that no one else can see. Celebrate the moment you remained silent instead of entering another argument. Celebrate the day you rested without explaining yourself. Celebrate the time you noticed an unhealthy pattern before repeating it. These are signs that your relationship with yourself is changing. Do not wait until you feel completely healed before recognizing your growth. Healing is already present in every healthier choice. It is present when you notice what drains you, when you stop chasing approval, and when you choose peace over familiar chaos. You may still have difficult emotions, but you are no longer responding to them in the same way. This is transformation. It often happens quietly, without applause or dramatic proof. One day, you simply realize that something which once controlled your entire life no longer has the same power. Continue gently. Do not make your healing another competition, deadline, or performance. You do not need to prove to anyone that you are strong, peaceful, or completely over the past. Your healing belongs to you. It can be slow, private, imperfect, and real. Take one honest step and allow it to be enough for today. Rest when your body asks for rest. Speak when silence becomes self-abandonment. Become quiet when anger is controlling your words. Ask for help when the burden becomes too heavy. Begin again when you fall into an old pattern. Beginning again is not failure. It is part of practice. Buddhism teaches that awareness can return in every moment. Even after reacting badly, ignoring your needs, or falling into an old habit, you can pause and choose differently. You do not need to wait for tomorrow, next week, or a perfect new beginning. Healing happens each time you return to yourself. It happens each time you stop using force and begin using wisdom. It happens when you understand that becoming whole is not about turning into someone who never feels pain. It is about becoming someone who can meet pain without abandoning themselves. You are not behind. You are not weak because you need time. You are not failing because some days remain difficult. You are learning how to care for parts of yourself that may have been ignored for years, and that work deserves patience. Let healing be quiet. Let it happen through better choices, kinder words, deeper rest, and stronger boundaries. Let it grow through the small moments when you decide that your peace matters. You do not have to transform your entire life today. Take one gentle step, give it time to become part of you, and continue when you are ready. Force may make you move quickly, but compassion helps you move in the right direction. The goal is not to heal faster. The goal is to heal in a way that does not create another wound. 8. Sometimes the best thing you can do is pause, rest, and heal. There may come a time when you finally realize that pushing yourself harder is no longer helping you move forward. You may still complete tasks, answer messages, meet expectations, and appear strong to everyone around you, but inside you feel empty. Your body continues moving, yet your mind feels tired. You keep doing what is required, but you no longer feel fully present in your own life. This is often the moment when you do not need more pressure, motivation, or discipline. You need permission to pause. Many people are afraid of stopping because they believe that everything will fall apart without them. They have become the person everyone depends on, the person who solves problems, listens to others, keeps promises, and continues even when life becomes difficult. They are used to carrying responsibility, so resting feels uncomfortable. They may even feel selfish for taking one quiet day while other people are still struggling. But you cannot keep giving from a place that has become completely empty. You cannot continue supporting everyone while ignoring the part of you that is quietly asking for help. There is nothing noble about losing yourself while trying to remain strong for the world. Strength is not only the ability to continue. Sometimes strength is the wisdom to recognize when continuing in the same way will cause deeper damage. Buddhism teaches that suffering becomes heavier when we fight against reality. If your body is tired, pretending that you are not tired creates more suffering. If your heart is hurting, forcing yourself to act unaffected does not remove the pain. If your mind is overwhelmed, demanding perfect focus only adds another layer of pressure. Healing begins when you stop arguing with what you honestly feel. This does not mean allowing pain to control your life. It means recognizing pain before it controls your behavior. When you admit that you are exhausted, you can make healthier choices. When you admit that something has hurt you, you can begin understanding why. When you admit that you cannot carry everything, you can decide what needs your attention and what must finally be put down. A pause gives you the opportunity to return to yourself. During constant movement, your attention is always outside you. You think about what others need, how they feel, whether they are satisfied, and what they expect next. You become so focused on managing the world around you that you forget to notice what is happening within you. When you pause, you begin hearing the thoughts and feelings that busyness has been covering. You may notice that you have been angry for a long time, not because you are a bad person, but because your boundaries have repeatedly been ignored. You may realize that you feel lonely even when surrounded by people because you never feel safe enough to be honest. You may discover that the life you are working hard to protect is the same life that keeps draining you. These realizations may be uncomfortable, but they are important. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. Constant pushing can keep pain hidden, but only awareness can help you understand it. A pause removes the noise long enough for truth to become visible. Sometimes you are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you have been fighting battles that no one else can see. You may have spent months trying to appear normal after losing someone, being betrayed, facing rejection, or watching an important dream collapse. You may have continued working because life did not stop for your pain. Responsibilities remained, people still needed you, and the world continued moving. Because you managed to survive, others may assume that you have recovered. They see you smiling, working, and completing your daily responsibilities, but they do not know how much energy it takes to do ordinary things while carrying emotional pain. You may not fully understand it either, because you have become accustomed to functioning while exhausted. Healing requires you to stop measuring your pain by how well you hide it. The fact that you can continue does not mean continuing is always healthy. A person can carry a heavy weight for a long distance, but that does not mean the weight is harmless. Eventually, the body must put it down. Ask yourself what weight you have been carrying simply because you became used to it. Perhaps it is the responsibility of keeping peace in a difficult family. Perhaps it is the fear of disappointing people. Perhaps it is an old memory you repeatedly blame yourself for. Perhaps it is the need to appear strong because you believe no one will support you if you become vulnerable. You may not be able to remove every burden immediately, but you can stop pretending that none of them are heavy. You can begin making space for your own feelings. You can ask for help, create distance, rest, or speak honestly. Healing often begins through these small acts of truth. Rest is not only physical sleep. You can sleep for many hours and still wake up emotionally exhausted. True rest may require a break from constant decision-making, explaining, worrying, proving, and pleasing. It may require time away from people who bring confusion into your mind. It may require turning off the noise that keeps your nervous system alert. Sometimes rest means not replying immediately. It means understanding that you do not owe everyone instant access to your energy. You can read a message and respond later. You can decline an invitation without inventing a complicated excuse. You can say that you need time before making a decision. This may feel uncomfortable if you are used to being constantly available. You may fear that people will become disappointed or think differently about you. But people who genuinely care about you will understand that you also have limits. Those who become angry because you need rest may be more attached to what you provide than to your well-being. Rest may also mean releasing the need to solve something today. The mind often creates false urgency. It tells you that you must understand the relationship, fix your future, make the perfect decision, or find an answer before you can sleep peacefully. But some problems become clearer only after you stop forcing an answer. A tired mind usually repeats the same thoughts without finding new understanding. You analyze every detail, imagine different outcomes, and replay conversations, but the more you think, the more confused you become. In such moments, thinking harder is not always the answer. Sometimes, the wisest thing you can do is sleep, walk away, and return when your mind has become calmer. Buddhist practice teaches that clarity develops when the mind settles. Muddy water cannot become clear while it is constantly being stirred. In the same way, your mind cannot see clearly when fear, pressure, and exhaustion are constantly moving through it. Stillness allows what is unnecessary to settle, so that what matters can become visible. When you rest, you are not avoiding responsibility. You are creating the conditions to meet responsibility with greater wisdom. A calm mind makes better decisions than an overwhelmed one. A rested body responds with more patience than an exhausted one. A heart that feels supported is less likely to seek comfort in harmful places. There is also a difference between resting and escaping. Rest helps you return to life with greater presence. Escape keeps you away from what needs attention. Spending a quiet evening, sleeping, meditating, or taking space can be healing when it restores you. But using distraction every day to avoid an important truth may keep suffering alive. You can ask yourself, will this help me recover, Or is this helping me avoid something I need to face? The answer may not always be clear immediately, but honest awareness will reveal the difference over time. Healthy rest leaves you feeling more connected to yourself. Avoidance usually leaves the same heaviness waiting when the distraction ends. Sometimes healing asks you to do less, but it also asks you to become more honest. You may need to admit that a relationship is no longer healthy, that a goal no longer brings meaning, or that your current way of living cannot continue. Rest gives you the strength to face these truths without becoming completely overwhelmed. Do not assume that healing always feels peaceful. Sometimes healing feels like grief, because you are letting go of something familiar. It may feel like loneliness, because you are creating distance from people who were always around you. It may feel like confusion, because your old identity is changing, but your new life has not yet become clear. These feelings do not mean you are moving in the wrong direction. They may be part of releasing what no longer supports you. When you stop pushing yourself to return immediately to who you were, you give yourself space to become someone wiser. You do not always need to return to your old self. Many people say they want to become the person they were before the pain, but perhaps the goal is not to go backward. Perhaps healing means becoming a version of yourself who understands boundaries, respects rest, recognizes unhealthy patterns, and no longer abandons themselves to keep others comfortable. The person you were before may not have known what you now know. They may have ignored warning signs, trusted too quickly, or believed that love required endless sacrifice. Do not make the past your only image of wholeness. You can become someone new without losing the good parts of who you were. Healing may change your priorities. You may become less interested in constant attention and more interested in genuine peace. You may stop chasing excitement that creates anxiety and begin valuing relationships that feel safe and consistent. You may prefer fewer people, quieter days, and a slower life. Others may not understand this change. They may say that you have become distant, less ambitious, or different. But healing often changes what you are willing to tolerate. The life that once felt normal may begin to feel exhausting because your awareness has grown. Do not shrink your healing to remain familiar to others. You are allowed to change your boundaries. You are allowed to stop attending places where you always feel drained. You are allowed to become unavailable for patterns that once controlled you. Growth will sometimes disappoint those who benefited from the version of you that never said no. Pausing can also help you understand that not everything must be carried into your future. Some memories must be respected, but not repeated. Some relationships must be accepted as lessons rather than lifelong connections. Some goals must be released because they were built around proving your worth rather than experiencing meaning. You may feel guilty for letting go after investing so much time and energy. You may think that walking away makes your previous effort useless, but staying in a harmful situation will not recover what has already been lost. It will only ask for more of your life. Wisdom means recognizing when effort has become attachment. It means understanding when persistence is helping you grow and when it is only keeping you trapped. Pausing gives you enough distance to see this difference. Buddhism teaches that attachment creates suffering when we demand that people, situations, and identities remain the way we want them to be. You may be attached to the person someone used to be, the future you imagined, or the belief that your effort must eventually be rewarded. You continue pushing because accepting reality feels too painful. But healing requires reality. It requires seeing what is present, not only what you hope will appear. You can still care about someone while accepting that their behavior is harmful. You can still value a dream while understanding that a different path may now be healthier. You can appreciate your past without allowing it to control your future. A pause helps you stop negotiating with what has already been revealed. It gives you time to observe patterns instead of becoming distracted by temporary promises. You begin noticing whether change is consistent or only spoken about. You stop allowing one good moment to erase months of pain. This clarity can save you from repeatedly reopening the same wound. Healing is not only about recovering after pain, it is also about becoming wise enough to protect yourself from avoidable suffering. This does not mean becoming cold, suspicious, or closed. It means allowing trust to grow through consistent actions instead of words alone. While healing, you may experience guilt when you begin choosing yourself. You may feel selfish for resting while someone needs you, saying no after years of agreement, or stepping away from a person who is also struggling. Compassion may make you want to continue helping, even when doing so destroys your peace. But compassion without wisdom becomes self-abandonment. You can care about someone without becoming responsible for every part of their life. You can understand their pain without allowing them to use that pain as permission to mistreat you. You can wish them well from a distance. Buddhism encourages compassion, but it also encourages awareness. True compassion does not create more suffering for everyone involved. When you constantly rescue someone from the results of their behavior, you may prevent them from learning responsibility. When you continue accepting harm, you teach them that your boundaries do not matter. Sometimes stepping back is compassionate for both people. It gives you space to heal and gives the other person the opportunity to face their own choices. You are not required to destroy yourself to prove that your heart is kind. Rest also gives your body a chance to release the stress it has been holding. Emotional pain does not live only in thoughts. It may appear as tight muscles, shallow breathing, headaches, stomach discomfort, or constant tiredness. Even when your mind says that everything is fine, your body may remain prepared for danger. You may notice that you cannot relax because you are waiting for the next problem. A message sound makes your heart race. A small change in someone's behavior causes anxiety. Silence feels threatening because you have learned to expect bad news. These reactions are not signs that you are weak. They may be signs that your nervous system has been under pressure for too long. Gentle rest teaches your body that every moment is not an emergency. Slow breathing, quiet surroundings, steady routines, and safe relationships can help your whole system become calmer. This process may take time. Do not become angry at yourself because you cannot relax immediately. A body that has lived in tension may need repeated experiences of safety before it trusts peace. At first, quiet moments may feel unfamiliar. You may become restless, look for work, or create unnecessary problems because activity feels more normal than stillness. Be patient. You are learning a different way of living. Create small rituals that tell your mind and body that it is safe to slow down. Put your phone away for a short time. Dim the lights at night. Sit near a window, drink something warm, or take a slow walk without trying to reach a goal. Let these actions remain simple. You do not need to make rest another performance. You do not need the perfect routine, room, music, or spiritual practice. Healing does not require you to perform calmness beautifully. It only asks for honest moments in which you stop adding more pressure. There may also be days when rest does not immediately make you feel better. You may sleep and still feel tired. You may take time alone and still feel sadness. This does not mean the rest was useless. Deep exhaustion may require more than one day, and emotional pain may not disappear simply because you paused once. Think about how long you were pushing yourself before you finally stopped. You may have ignored your needs for months or years. Your mind and body cannot always recover according to the speed your impatient thoughts demand. Give the process time. Healing is often happening before you can feel it. Each good night of sleep, each honest boundary, and each quiet moment becomes part of a new foundation. You may not notice dramatic change every day, but eventually you will realize that you are less reactive, more aware, and more comfortable protecting your peace. One day, a situation that once caused panic may only create brief discomfort. A person's silence may no longer destroy your self-worth. A mistake may no longer lead to hours of self-hatred. These changes are evidence that rest and awareness are slowly transforming your relationship with suffering. Do not underestimate the power of becoming less reactive. Many painful cycles survive because people respond immediately from fear. They send the message, chase the person, accept the responsibility, or say something hurtful before understanding what they feel. A pause can change the entire direction of a moment. Before responding, take one breath. Before saying yes, give yourself time. Before assuming the worst, ask what you truly know. Before criticizing yourself, speak as though you were guiding someone you love. These small pauses protect you from creating new pain while you are trying to heal old pain. You do not need to answer everything immediately. A delayed response made with clarity is often better than a quick response made from exhaustion. Silence for a moment is not failure. It is space for wisdom. Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave a question unanswered for the night. The mind may demand certainty, but not every answer is available today. Allow uncertainty to exist without turning it into disaster. Life can remain unfinished for a moment without falling apart. This is one of the deepest lessons of rest. You do not have to control everything to be safe. You can allow some things to unfold. You can prepare responsibly while accepting that the future will never be completely predictable. You can release what does not belong to your control. Your healing does not need to look impressive. It may happen quietly, in choices no one sees. It may happen when you stop checking something that always hurts you, when you leave your phone in another room, or when you decide not to explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. It may happen when you cry without judging your tears, sleep without calling yourself lazy, or spend an evening doing nothing that can be shown as an achievement. These moments may appear ordinary, but they can rebuild your relationship with yourself. You begin trusting that you will listen when something feels wrong. You begin believing that you will protect yourself when a boundary is crossed. You become less afraid of being alone because your own presence no longer feels harsh or unsafe. This is what healing slowly creates. It does not always remove every memory, but it changes how much power the memory holds. It does not guarantee that you will never feel tired, but it teaches you to rest before exhaustion becomes destruction. It does not prevent every painful experience, but it helps you stop abandoning yourself during pain. You may still have responsibilities, goals, and people you care about. Healing does not require you to leave your entire life and disappear. It asks you to stop living as though your needs are less important than everything else. It asks you to build rest, honesty, and compassion into the life you already have. Begin by removing one unnecessary pressure. Let one task wait. Refuse one request that you do not have the strength to carry. Spend 1 hour without proving, producing, or pleasing. Notice what happens when you allow yourself to exist without earning the moment. Guilt may appear. The mind may tell you that you should be doing more. Observe that thought without obeying it. It is often an old habit, not a true command. You are allowed to choose a healthier response. Remind yourself that rest supports everything meaningful in your life. It helps you think clearly, love patiently, work wisely, and recognize when something must change. It does not make you less committed. It prevents commitment from becoming self-destruction. A person who never pauses may appear strong for a while, but eventually their body, emotions, or relationships may carry the cost. A person who learns to rest can continue with greater stability. The goal is not to do nothing. The goal is to stop doing everything at the expense of your well-being. Buddhism does not teach endless striving. It teaches understanding, balance, and freedom from unnecessary suffering. Sometimes freedom begins when you stop forcing yourself to become better every moment and simply allow yourself to be present with what is here. You can sit with tiredness without calling it failure. You can acknowledge sadness without believing it will last forever. You can admit confusion without forcing an immediate decision. In this acceptance, the mind begins to soften. When the mind softens, healing has space to enter. You become less interested in fighting yourself and more willing to listen. You begin to understand that you were never a problem that needed constant fixing. You were a tired human being who needed care. Perhaps you have carried enough for today. Perhaps the unfinished tasks can remain unfinished for a few hours. Perhaps you do not need to explain your silence, defend your need for space, or prove how much you can tolerate. Take one slow breath and notice that you are here. Your past is not happening in this exact moment. Tomorrow has not arrived. For now, you only need to meet this breath, this body, and this moment. Let your shoulders relax. Let your jaw soften. Allow yourself to stop preparing for a problem that is not currently in front of you. You do not need to carry the entire future while sitting in the present. Rest does not mean you have given up on your life. It means you have decided that your life is worth protecting. Pausing does not mean you lack purpose. It means you want to continue without losing yourself along the way. Your strongest decision may not be to push through another night, accept another burden, or hide another feeling. Your strongest decision may be to say, "This is enough for today." Sometimes the path forward begins with stillness. Sometimes clarity begins when you stop searching. Sometimes strength returns when you stop forcing it. Sometimes the best thing you can do is pause, rest, and allow healing to happen without pressure. You do not have to earn this pause. You do not need permission from the people around you. You are allowed to rest because you are human, because you are tired, and because your peace matters. Let today be the day you stop treating exhaustion as proof of your value. Let it be the moment you understand that caring for yourself is not a distraction from life. It is part of living wisely. You have pushed long enough. You have carried enough. Now give yourself what you may have been giving everyone else: patience, understanding, gentleness, and time. Rest for as long as you honestly need. Heal without turning healing into another deadline. When you are ready, you can move forward again, but this time you can move with greater awareness, healthier boundaries, and a heart that no longer believes suffering is the price of being worthy. 9. You do not have to destroy yourself to deserve a peaceful life. Many people spend years believing that peace is something they will receive only after they have suffered enough. They think they must complete every responsibility, satisfy every person, overcome every weakness, and achieve every goal before they are finally allowed to feel calm. Until that day arrives, they continue pushing themselves through exhaustion, disappointment, and emotional pain. But that day rarely arrives because the mind keeps moving the finish line. When you complete one task, another appears. When you solve one problem, a new concern takes its place. When you reach one goal, you begin comparing yourself with someone who has achieved more. You keep telling yourself that peace is waiting somewhere in the future, while your present life slowly passes without being fully lived. Buddhism teaches that peace is not something you find only after life becomes perfect. It is something you practice while life remains unfinished. There will always be uncertainty, change, responsibility, and difficulty. If you wait for every problem to disappear before allowing yourself to rest, you may spend your entire life waiting. You do not need to destroy yourself to prove that you are serious about your future. You do not need to suffer constantly to show that you are disciplined. You do not need to remain exhausted to earn respect. A peaceful life is not a reward given only to those who have reached the end of their struggle. It begins when you stop creating unnecessary suffering within the life you already have. Some people feel suspicious of peace because struggle has become familiar. They have lived under pressure for so long that calmness feels uncomfortable. When nothing is wrong, their minds begin searching for a problem. When they have free time, they fill it immediately. When a relationship feels stable, they worry that something bad is about to happen. This happens because the body and mind can become accustomed to stress. Chaos may be painful, but it feels familiar. Peace may be healthy, but it feels unknown. You may say that you want a calm life, while unconsciously returning to people, habits, and situations that keep you emotionally unsettled. You may choose relationships filled with uncertainty because steady love feels unfamiliar. You may create impossible schedules because slowing down makes you feel useless. You may repeatedly check for bad news because your mind has learned to expect danger. These patterns are not proof that you want to suffer. They may simply show that you have not yet learned how to feel safe without struggle. Healing requires you to become comfortable with peace slowly. At first, stillness may feel empty rather than relaxing. You may not know what to do when no one needs you, no crisis demands your attention, and no problem requires an immediate solution. You may feel guilty because you have connected your identity with being the person who carries everything. Give yourself time to learn a new way of living. You do not need to fill every quiet space. You can sit without turning the moment into work. You can enjoy a peaceful day without expecting punishment afterward. You can allow something good to exist without immediately thinking about how it may end. Buddhism teaches awareness of the present moment. In the present, you may discover that much of the pressure you feel is not coming from what is happening now. It is coming from memories of what happened before, or fears about what might happen next. Your body is sitting safely in one place, but your mind is fighting situations that are not currently occurring. You may replay an old conversation and create new pain from words that were spoken years ago. You may imagine future failure and experience the fear as though it has already happened. You may worry that someone will leave, that your plans will collapse, or that you will not be able to handle what comes next. The mind believes that constant worry will prepare you, but worry often exhausts you before the real moment arrives. You spend today's energy fighting tomorrow's possibilities. Then, when tomorrow comes, you are already tired. Preparation is useful when it leads to clear action. Worry becomes harmful when it only repeats fear without producing a solution. Learning the difference can protect your peace. Ask yourself whether there is one practical step you can take. If there is, take it calmly. If there is nothing you can do right now, allow the question to rest. You do not have to solve tomorrow before sleeping tonight. You are allowed to leave part of your life unanswered. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it is not always dangerous. You have already survived many situations without knowing exactly how they would unfold. Your mind may demand complete control because control appears to offer safety. You plan every detail, study every possible outcome, and try to understand what everyone is thinking. You believe that if you remain alert enough, you can prevent disappointment. But control has limits. You cannot force people to be honest, loyal, mature, or kind. You cannot stop every change, loss, mistake, or unexpected event. You can make wise choices, protect your boundaries, and prepare responsibly, but you cannot control life completely. Trying to control what cannot be controlled creates deep exhaustion. You carry responsibility for other people's emotions, choices, and reactions. You think that if someone is disappointed, you must have done something wrong. If a relationship becomes distant, you immediately look for a way to repair it. If someone misunderstands you, you explain yourself repeatedly. Sometimes peace begins when you allow people to have their own reactions. Someone may misunderstand your boundary, dislike your decision, or feel disappointed when you choose yourself. You can listen respectfully, but you do not have to betray your well-being to change their feelings. Not every misunderstanding requires another explanation. Not every disagreement means the relationship must be saved. Not every person will see your intentions clearly, even when you speak honestly. There comes a point when continuing to explain yourself becomes another way of seeking permission. You are allowed to choose what is healthy without receiving agreement from everyone involved. This does not mean becoming careless or refusing responsibility. It means understanding that your life cannot be controlled by the fear of disappointing people. For years, you may have believed that being a good person means remaining endlessly available. You answer every call, listen to every problem, accept extra work, and make room for everyone's emotions. You do this because you care, but you may also do it because you are afraid of being called selfish. Kindness is valuable, but kindness without boundaries can become self-neglect. You may become so focused on protecting others from discomfort that you stop protecting yourself from exhaustion. You carry problems that do not belong to you, and then wonder why you feel heavy. Buddhism teaches compassion, but compassion must be joined with wisdom. Wise compassion understands that helping does not always mean saying yes. Sometimes helping means allowing someone to face the results of their choices. Sometimes it means refusing to participate in an unhealthy pattern. Sometimes it means stepping back because your involvement is no longer helping either person grow. You can care without carrying everything. You can listen without becoming responsible for fixing the entire situation. You can support someone without sacrificing your physical and emotional health. Love does not require you to become empty. Pay attention to how your body feels when someone asks for something. Sometimes your mouth says yes while your body becomes tense. You feel heaviness in your chest, irritation, or immediate exhaustion. These feelings may reveal that you are agreeing out of fear rather than genuine willingness. Before answering, pause. You do not have to respond immediately. Say that you need time to think. Ask whether the request is truly yours to carry, whether you have enough energy, and whether saying yes will create resentment later. A resentful yes is not always kinder than an honest no. When you agree while secretly feeling angry, the relationship becomes filled with unspoken tension. You may eventually explode over something small because you have ignored your needs for too long. An honest boundary may create temporary discomfort, but it can prevent deeper suffering. It allows others to understand what you can genuinely offer. It also teaches you that your feelings deserve a place in your decisions. At first, boundaries may feel harsh because you are used to self-abandonment. Saying no may make you feel guilty even when the request is unreasonable. Remember that guilt does not always mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt appears because you are doing something new. Old habits may tell you to return to the familiar version of yourself who never refused anyone. Stay patient. Each healthy boundary strengthens your relationship with yourself. Over time, the guilt becomes smaller and self-respect becomes stronger. Peace also requires releasing the belief that suffering makes you more worthy. Some people feel proud of how much they can tolerate. They remain in harmful situations because leaving feels like failure. They believe that enduring more proves loyalty, strength, or spiritual maturity. But tolerance is not always wisdom. Staying in a place that repeatedly destroys your confidence does not make you noble. Remaining silent while someone disrespects you does not automatically make you peaceful. Forgiving the same harmful behavior without change does not always create healing. Sometimes, endurance becomes fear wearing the appearance of strength. You stay because you fear loneliness, uncertainty, or other people's judgment. You tell yourself that you are being patient, but deep inside, you know you are afraid to choose differently. Buddhism does not ask you to remain where suffering is continually created. It asks you to understand the causes of suffering and reduce them wisely. If a situation keeps producing the same wound, awareness must eventually lead to action. This action may not always mean leaving immediately. It may mean having an honest conversation, creating a clear boundary, seeking support, or changing your level of involvement. What matters is that you stop pretending repeated harm is normal. You deserve relationships where peace is not something you must beg for. You deserve to be around people who do not punish you for having needs. You deserve spaces where your body does not remain tense because you are constantly preparing for criticism. This does not mean every relationship will be easy. Healthy relationships still include disagreement and difficult conversations. The difference is that difficulty does not become constant fear. Both people are willing to listen, take responsibility, and make changes. Do not confuse emotional intensity with love. A relationship filled with distance, chasing, arguments, apologies, and temporary closeness may feel powerful, but intensity is not the same as safety. Sometimes the strongest attachment develops around uncertainty because the mind becomes addicted to waiting for the next moment of affection. Peaceful love may feel quieter. It does not constantly make you question where you stand. It allows your nervous system to relax. You do not need to perform, chase, or prove your value every day. When you have lived around chaos, calmness can feel boring. You may mistake stability for a lack of passion. Give yourself time to understand that peace is not emptiness. It is the absence of unnecessary fear. The same lesson applies to your relationship with achievement. You may be addicted to pressure because achievement gives you temporary relief from feelings of inadequacy. When you complete something, you feel worthy for a short time. Soon, the feeling fades, and you need another achievement. This cycle can continue forever. You work to feel valuable, but because your worth depends on results, you never feel secure. Every failure becomes a threat to your identity. Every rest day feels like proof that you are falling behind. You are allowed to have goals, ambition, and discipline. Buddhism does not require you to abandon meaningful effort. The problem begins when you use achievement to escape the belief that you are not enough. Your work can express your values, creativity, and purpose, but it cannot permanently answer the question of whether you deserve love and peace. That answer cannot depend on performance. You must begin understanding that your human worth exists before the result. This understanding does not make you lazy. It allows you to work without constant fear. You can do your best while accepting that one mistake does not define your entire life. You can rest without believing your value has disappeared. A peaceful life is not a life without effort. It is a life where effort no longer comes from self-hatred. You work because something matters, not because you are trying to escape yourself. You improve because growth is meaningful, not because you believe the present version of you is unworthy of care. Notice the difference between healthy discipline and punishment. Healthy discipline respects your body, adjusts when circumstances change, and includes recovery. Punishment ignores pain, demands perfection, and uses criticism as motivation. Healthy discipline may say, "I will continue, but I also need sleep." Punishment says, "Rest is for weak people." Healthy discipline says, "I made a mistake, so I will learn from it." Punishment says, "This mistake proves I am a failure." The voice you use inside your mind shapes the way you experience your life. You may achieve many things while remaining deeply unhappy if every step is guided by criticism. You may appear successful while never feeling safe inside yourself. Begin changing that inner environment. When you notice harsh words, do not replace them with empty praise you do not believe. Choose a more honest and compassionate response. Instead of saying, "I am useless," say, "I am overwhelmed, and I need to approach this differently." Instead of saying, "I should be over this," say, "This is taking time, but I am learning how to respond more wisely." Instead of saying, "Everyone is ahead of me," say, "Their path is different from mine, and comparison will not guide me clearly." This kind of language does not deny difficulty. It removes unnecessary cruelty. You can acknowledge a problem without turning yourself into the problem. You may also need to forgive yourself for the years you spent pushing too hard. Looking back, you may regret how often you ignored your body, stayed in unhealthy relationships, or chose other people's approval over your own peace. Do not use new awareness to attack your past self. You understand more now because of what you experienced. The person you were then may have been surviving with the knowledge, support, and strength available at that time. You can take responsibility without carrying endless shame. Say, "I see what this pattern cost me, and I choose not to continue it." This turns regret into wisdom. Self-forgiveness does not mean pretending nothing happened. It means refusing to spend the rest of your life punishing yourself for a version of you who needed guidance. You cannot heal while becoming another source of harm inside your own mind. Your past decisions may have created consequences, but they do not remove your right to build a better future. You can begin again without denying where you have been. Starting again may be slow, but it is still movement. Perhaps your new beginning does not look dramatic. It may begin with a better sleeping routine, fewer conversations with someone who drains you, or one clear boundary. It may begin with admitting that you are not okay and asking for support. Small changes may appear unimportant, but they create a different direction. A person does not transform their life only through one great decision. Life changes through ordinary choices repeated consistently. Every time you rest before collapse, you weaken the habit of self-neglect. Every time you speak honestly, you weaken the habit of hiding. Every time you choose peace over approval, you strengthen self-respect. The world may not notice these changes. There may be no applause when you decide not to return to an unhealthy cycle. No one may congratulate you for sleeping instead of overthinking all night. But private changes often create the deepest healing. You are building a life in which your body no longer needs to become sick before you listen. You are teaching your mind that it does not need to create a crisis to receive attention. You are becoming someone who responds to quiet signs before they become unbearable. This is a peaceful kind of strength. It does not need to prove itself through suffering. It understands that prevention is wiser than repeated recovery. It knows that saying no early is better than becoming resentful later. Allow your life to become simpler where possible. Not every conflict needs your involvement. Not every opportunity must be accepted. Not every relationship must be maintained forever. Not every thought deserves your belief. Simplicity creates room for healing. When you stop giving energy to everything, you can give attention to what truly matters. You begin valuing sleep, meaningful relationships, honest work, quiet reflection, and the health of your mind. A simple life does not mean an empty or unsuccessful life. It means reducing what constantly pulls you away from yourself. It means choosing depth instead of endless noise. You may discover that peace requires disappointing the part of you that wants to impress everyone. It may require choosing a slower path while others appear to move quickly. It may require accepting that your life does not need to look extraordinary from the outside to feel meaningful within. There is freedom in no longer performing your life for an audience. You can make choices based on what brings wisdom and stability rather than what receives attention. You can rest without photographing it, heal without announcing it, and grow without proving it. Buddhism reminds you that praise and criticism are both temporary. If you build your identity around praise, you will become afraid of criticism. When other people's opinions decide your value, peace remains fragile. Listen to guidance, learn from honest feedback, and remain willing to grow, but do not hand your entire sense of self to the changing opinions of the world. People may praise you today and misunderstand you tomorrow. Your task is to live according to awareness and values, not constant approval. The more clearly you know what matters to you, the less pressure you feel to follow every expectation. You can respect others without allowing them to design your life. You can love your family without becoming the person they imagined. You can care about society without living according to every standard it creates. This freedom is not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It is the peaceful decision to stop abandoning your truth. You become responsible for your direction instead of blaming others for the life you never chose. Responsibility may feel frightening because it removes excuses, but it also gives you power. You may not control everything that happened to you, but you can influence what you continue allowing, what you repeat, and how you care for yourself now. Do not wait until you feel completely fearless. Courage often begins while fear is still present. You can set a boundary with a shaking voice. You can leave a harmful pattern while still feeling attached. You can choose rest while guilt remains. The goal is not to eliminate every uncomfortable emotion before making a healthy choice. The goal is to stop allowing discomfort to force you back into suffering. As you continue healing, you may lose certain people, habits, and identities. This loss can hurt even when the change is good. You may miss the familiar version of your life, not because it was healthy, but because it was known. Allow yourself to grieve what you release. You can know something was harmful and still miss parts of it. You can choose distance and still care. Healing does not require you to become emotionally cold. Grief is often part of making room for peace. You are not only grieving a person or situation. You may be grieving the future you imagined, the effort you invested, or the version of yourself who believed things would change. Let the grief move through you without using it as evidence that you should return. Missing something does not always mean it belongs in your life. Sometimes it only means it mattered. With time, the empty space begins to feel different. At first, it may feel lonely. Later, it becomes room for healthier relationships, better habits, and a more honest identity. Do not rush to fill that space immediately. When people leave a painful situation, they sometimes enter another one quickly because emptiness feels unbearable. They seek a new person, goal, or distraction before understanding what the previous experience taught them. Give yourself time to become familiar with your own presence. Learn what you enjoy when no one else is influencing you. Notice what your mind feels like without constant emotional confusion. Solitude can become a place of healing when it is chosen with awareness. It gives you space to rebuild trust in yourself. You no longer need another person's attention to prove that you exist or matter. This does not mean you should isolate yourself from all connection. Healthy support is important. The purpose is to stop using people as an escape from yourself. Relationships become healthier when you enter them from wholeness rather than desperation. When you are no longer terrified of being alone, you become less likely to accept disrespect just to keep someone. You can choose relationships because they add meaning, not because you believe you cannot survive without them. Peace grows when you stop negotiating your basic worth. You no longer chase people who repeatedly show a lack of care. You stop arguing with those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop asking closed doors to explain why they did not open. You accept what behavior reveals. Acceptance does not mean approving of what happened. It means refusing to waste more energy, demanding a different reality from the one already present. This acceptance can feel painful, but it ends the exhausting fight between what is and what you wanted it to be. Once you stop fighting reality, you can decide how to respond. Sometimes the response is forgiveness. Sometimes it is distance. Sometimes it is a final conversation, and sometimes silence is enough. Wisdom does not use the same answer for every situation. What matters is that your choice supports healing rather than repeating the wound. Ask whether your action will bring greater clarity or return you to confusion. Ask whether it comes from self-respect or fear of being alone. These questions help you move slowly and wisely. You do not need to become someone who never makes mistakes. You only need to become more willing to notice, learn, and adjust. There will still be days when you push too hard. You may agree to too much, ignore your tiredness, or return briefly to an old habit. Do not turn one difficult day into proof that you have failed. Awareness may come after the mistake. That awareness still matters. Pause, understand what happened, and begin again. Healing includes many beginnings. Buddhist practice is not about never becoming distracted, angry, attached, or exhausted. It is about returning when you notice. You return to the breath, to awareness, to compassion, and to the path you have chosen. Every return strengthens you. It shows that an old pattern may still exist, but it no longer controls you without being questioned. You are becoming awake to your own life. The purpose of rest is not to avoid living, it is to help you live with greater presence. The purpose of boundaries is not to keep everyone away. It is to make healthier connection possible. The purpose of healing is not to become untouched by pain. It is to stop losing yourself whenever pain appears. A peaceful life will still contain difficult seasons. You will experience disappointment, uncertainty, change, and loss. Peace does not protect you from being human. It changes the way you carry human experience. Instead of attacking yourself during difficulty, you become supportive. Instead of believing every fearful thought, you pause. Instead of chasing control, you focus on what is truly yours to manage. This creates inner stability. You may still bend under pressure, but you no longer break in the same way. You understand that rest is available, support can be requested, and no painful moment lasts forever. You begin trusting that you can meet life without constantly preparing for disaster. You do not need to stay tense to remain safe. You can become alert without becoming anxious, disciplined without becoming cruel, and compassionate without abandoning yourself. Perhaps this is the lesson you needed all along. Your worth was never measured by how much pain you could endure. You were never required to become exhausted before being allowed to rest. You did not need to lose yourself to prove that you cared. You deserve peace before everything is perfect. You deserve care while you are still learning. You deserve rest while responsibilities remain unfinished. Your humanity is enough reason. Begin creating that peace in small ways. Take a breath before you respond. Leave one unnecessary task for tomorrow. Step away from one conversation that is becoming harmful. Give your body the sleep it has been requesting. Speak to yourself with more patience tonight. You do not need to review every mistake before closing your eyes. You have carried enough thoughts through the day. Let some of them remain unresolved. Place your hand on your heart and notice that it has continued beating through every difficult season. Your body has carried you even when you criticized it, ignored it, and demanded more from it. Offer it gratitude instead of another command. Tell yourself that you are safe enough to pause. Tell yourself that nothing important will be destroyed because you rested for a moment. Tell yourself that healing does not need to be completed tonight. Your life is not a race against everyone around you. The speed of another person's path says nothing about the value of yours. You are allowed to move according to the rhythm that keeps you healthy and awake. Some seasons are for action, while others are for recovery. A tree is not failing when it loses its leaves. It is protecting energy for a new season. Nature does not remain in constant bloom, and neither should you demand that from yourself. You may be in a season where growth is happening quietly beneath the surface. Nothing dramatic may be visible, but your roots are becoming stronger. Rest is part of that growth. Do not dig up your progress every day to check whether you are healing quickly enough. Continue offering the conditions that support change. Give yourself patience, sleep, nourishment, boundaries, honest reflection, and safe connection. Trust that these acts are doing something, even when you cannot immediately feel the result. Healing often becomes visible after it has been happening quietly for a long time. One day, you may look back and realize that you no longer need to force yourself through every emotion. You know when to pause, when to continue, when to speak, and when to walk away. You no longer confuse suffering with loyalty or exhaustion with success. You will not become perfect, but you will become more peaceful. You will understand that strength is not only found in how much you can carry, it is also found in knowing what to put down. You have permission to create a life that does not require constant recovery from itself. You can choose routines that support your body, work that respects your limits, and relationships that do not make you question your worth. Not everything can be changed immediately, but every honest choice moves you closer to that life. Begin with what is possible today. You do not have to destroy yourself to deserve peace. You do not need to become someone else before you are worthy of care. You do not have to reach the end of your struggle before allowing yourself one quiet breath. Pause now. Let this moment be enough. Let yourself exist without producing, explaining, or proving anything. Feel the ground beneath you and the breath moving through your body. You are still here, and that is enough for this moment. Your work can continue later. Your questions can wait. The world does not need you to carry everything tonight. Sometimes the most meaningful change begins when you stop asking how much more you can endure and begin asking how gently you can live. That question may guide you toward a life where effort and rest support each other, where compassion includes you, and where peace is no longer postponed until some perfect future. You have pushed yourself for long enough. Now allow wisdom to lead you differently. Continue when continuing is healthy. Pause when your body asks for stillness, and release what repeatedly demands the destruction of your peace. A meaningful life does not have to be a painful life. You are allowed to grow without hating yourself, succeed without becoming exhausted, love without disappearing, and heal without turning recovery into another form of pressure. You are allowed to live peacefully, not because you have earned it through suffering, but because peace is part of the life you are always worthy of living. 10. You are allowed to slow down without feeling guilty. Many people understand that rest is important, but they still cannot rest peacefully. They lie down, close their eyes, and stop working, yet their minds continue running. They think about unfinished tasks, unanswered messages, future responsibilities, and all the things they believe they should be doing. Their body may be still, but inside they remain under pressure. This is not complete rest because guilt has followed them into the quiet moment. You may have experienced this yourself. You finally receive some free time, but instead of feeling relieved, you feel uncomfortable. You check your phone repeatedly, search for something useful to do, or begin cleaning and organizing, because sitting without productivity makes you feel lazy. Even when you are exhausted, part of you says that you have not earned the right to stop. This guilt often comes from the belief that your value depends on how much you accomplish. You may have learned that hard-working people deserve respect, while those who rest are weak or careless. Perhaps you were praised for being responsible, available, and strong, so you began connecting love and approval with usefulness. You learned that when you were helping, achieving, or solving problems, people noticed you. Over time, this became more than a habit. It became part of your identity. You did not simply complete responsibilities. You became the person who never stopped. You became the one who could always handle more, stay awake longer, sacrifice personal comfort, and continue when everyone else needed a break. Other people may have admired this, but they may not have seen the exhaustion slowly growing beneath your strength. Now, when you try to slow down, you may feel as though you are losing an important part of yourself. You may wonder who you are when you are not achieving, helping, or producing something. Silence creates discomfort because it removes the role through which you learn to feel valuable. Buddhism teaches that identity is not as fixed as we believe. You are not only your job, responsibilities, achievements, or usefulness to other people. These are parts of your life, but they are not the complete truth of who you are. When you define yourself only through action, every pause feels like a threat. When you understand that your worth is deeper than performance, rest becomes less frightening. You do not stop being valuable when you stop working. You do not become less worthy when you decline a request, sleep longer, or take a quiet day. Your life does not lose meaning simply because one moment produces nothing visible. A peaceful breath may not create a result that other people can see, but it may protect your mind from reaching complete exhaustion. Guilt may still appear when you begin resting. Do not assume that guilt proves you are doing something wrong. Guilt sometimes appears because you are breaking an old pattern. Your mind has been trained to expect constant activity, so slowing down feels unfamiliar. The uncomfortable feeling is not always a warning to return to the old habit. Sometimes it is simply evidence that you are learning a healthier one. Imagine that you have worn uncomfortable shoes for many years. When you finally remove them, your feet may still ache because they have become used to pressure. The absence of the shoes does not immediately remove the pain. In the same way, removing constant responsibility does not immediately make your mind peaceful. It takes time for your body and thoughts to understand that they no longer need to remain tense. Be patient during this adjustment. Rest may feel strange before it begins to feel safe. You may need to practice doing less without immediately filling the space again. Begin with short moments. Sit quietly for 10 minutes without turning the time into planning. Take a slow walk without measuring distance or trying to achieve a fitness goal. Drink something warm without scrolling through your phone. These moments teach you that you can exist without proving anything. At first, your mind may list everything that remains unfinished. Let the thoughts appear without immediately responding to them. Remind yourself that an unfinished task is not an emergency simply because your mind keeps repeating it. Buddhist mindfulness teaches you to observe thoughts instead of automatically obeying them. When the mind says, "You should be doing more," notice the thought. You do not need to argue with it or follow it. You can answer gently, "There is more to do, but I also need rest." This response respects both responsibility and well-being. You are not pretending that your obligations do not exist. You are simply refusing to treat every obligation as more important than your health. Work can wait for a reasonable time. Messages can remain unanswered. A decision can be made after sleep. Many mistakes happen because people act while exhausted. They respond harshly, forget important details, misunderstand others, and make choices they would not make with a clear mind. They continue because they believe stopping would waste time, but exhaustion often creates more work later. Rest is not always time taken away from responsibility. Sometimes it is preparation for handling responsibility properly. A rested mind can focus more clearly, recognize priorities, and respond with greater patience. A rested body can work steadily without needing to recover from repeated collapse. Think about how you treat a tool you value. You would not use it continuously until it breaks and then blame it for failing. You would clean it, protect it, and give it the care required to function well. Yet many people treat their bodies and minds with less respect than they give their possessions. They ignore pain, hunger, tiredness, and emotional pressure because they believe they should be able to continue. When they finally break down, they become angry with themselves. They say, "Why can I not handle this?" instead of asking, "Why did I expect myself to carry so much without recovery?" Your limits are not personal failures. Every human being has physical, mental, and emotional limits. Wisdom is not found in pretending those limits do not exist. Wisdom is found in recognizing them early enough to protect your health. Buddhism encourages awareness of causes and consequences. If you repeatedly ignore your limits, the consequence may be deeper exhaustion, resentment, illness, or loss of motivation. If you respect your limits, the consequence may be greater stability and clearer effort. You may fear that slowing down will make you lose discipline, but discipline and constant pressure are not the same. Real discipline includes knowing when to continue and when to recover. An athlete who trains without rest does not necessarily become stronger. Without recovery, the body becomes injured. The same is true for the mind. You can remain committed to your goals without treating yourself harshly. You can work with focus, then stop when your energy becomes too low to continue wisely. You can create a schedule that includes sleep, food, silence, movement, and time without demands. This may feel less impressive than working until complete exhaustion, but it is more sustainable. A life built only on intense effort may look powerful for a short time, yet it cannot continue forever. A balanced life may appear slower, but it allows you to keep moving without repeatedly losing yourself. The desire to push constantly may also come from fear of falling behind. You look at other people's progress and believe that every moment of rest gives them an advantage. You see their achievements but not their struggles, support, circumstances, or private costs. You compare your entire life with a small part of theirs. Comparison creates false urgency. It convinces you that you must move faster, even when you do not know where the other person is going. You may begin pursuing goals you never truly wanted, simply because someone else appears successful. Buddhism teaches that comparison disturbs the mind because it pulls your attention away from your own path. When you constantly look sideways, you stop noticing what your life actually needs. Someone else may be in a season of action while you are in a season of healing. Their speed cannot determine what is healthy for you. A tree does not look at another tree and become ashamed because it is growing at a different rate. It responds to its own soil, sunlight, water, and season. Your growth also depends on conditions that are unique to your life. Rest may be part of the conditions you need now. You are not falling behind when you recover from what exhausted you. You are not wasting time when you rebuild your strength. Healing may not create immediate visible success, but it creates the foundation on which healthier success can stand. Without that foundation, achievement may become another source of suffering. You reach a goal, but cannot enjoy it because you are already worried about the next one. You receive praise but remain afraid that one mistake will remove it. You appear successful while feeling empty inside. Slowing down allows you to ask whether the life you are building is actually one you want to live. Constant movement may help you avoid this question. As long as you remain busy, you can assume that progress is happening, but stillness may reveal that your effort is carrying you away from peace. This realization is not a reason to judge yourself. It is an opportunity to adjust. You are allowed to change how you work, what you pursue, and what you consider success. You are allowed to decide that health, peace, meaningful relationships, and time to breathe are also achievements. Success does not have to mean being the busiest person in the room. It can mean having enough awareness to recognize when your life needs balance. It can mean completing important work without losing sleep every night. It can mean being present with people you love, rather than constantly thinking about the next task. Slowing down also helps you experience the life that your effort is supposed to support. Many people work hard to create a better future, but never allow themselves to live in the present. They keep saving happiness for later. They say they will relax after the next goal, enjoy life after becoming successful, and spend time with loved ones when responsibilities become easier. But responsibilities rarely disappear completely. Life continues producing new demands. If peace is always postponed, it may never be experienced. The future you are working toward is built from the days you are currently rushing through. Buddhism returns your attention to this moment. It reminds you that life is not only the destination you hope to reach. Life is also the breath you are taking now, the meal in front of you, the person sitting beside you, and the evening you may never experience again in exactly the same way. Slowing down allows you to notice these moments. You taste your food instead of eating while answering messages. You listen when someone speaks instead of planning your next response. You see the sky, feel the air, and notice the quiet details that constant pressure makes invisible. These moments may not appear important compared with large goals, but they are the substance of life. A meaningful life is not created only through major achievements. It is also created through attention. You may reach every goal and still feel that life passed too quickly if you were never present while it was happening. Slowing down is not refusing to move forward. It is refusing to miss your life while moving through it. Some people avoid slowing down because they are afraid of what they will feel. When the noise stops, sadness, loneliness, grief, or uncertainty may become clearer. You may realize that you have been using productivity to avoid emotional pain. This can make rest feel more difficult than work. Work gives the mind something to focus on, while quietness brings hidden feelings to the surface. You may believe that rest is making you feel worse, but the feelings were already present. Rest simply makes them easier to notice. Do not rush to escape them. Sit with what appears gently. You do not need to solve every emotion immediately. Name it and allow it to exist without turning it into a permanent identity. You can say, "Sadness is here," instead of, "My entire life is sad." This small change creates distance between you and the feeling. It reminds you that an emotion is passing through your experience. It is not the whole of who you are. Buddhism teaches that everything changes, including emotional states. The sadness may need attention, tears, conversation, or professional support. The loneliness may be asking you to seek healthier connection. The anger may be revealing that a boundary has been crossed. When you stop covering these feelings with constant activity, they can begin guiding you toward what needs healing. Guilt may tell you that resting is selfish because other people depend on you. You may have responsibilities that cannot simply be abandoned. Perhaps you care for family, manage important work, or support people who genuinely need help. Slowing down does not mean becoming careless toward them. It means understanding that you cannot support others well if you completely destroy your own strength. Care that is given from constant exhaustion often turns into resentment. You continue helping, but inside, you feel angry that no one notices how much it costs you. This anger may appear in small moments. You become irritated when someone asks a simple question. You feel overwhelmed by normal responsibilities. You begin avoiding people you care about because you have no energy left. These reactions do not necessarily mean you have stopped loving them. They may mean you have ignored your own needs for too long. Rest can protect relationships by preventing exhaustion from turning love into bitterness. Communicate your limits before resentment becomes unbearable. Tell people when you need time, support, or space. You do not need to present yourself as endlessly capable. Healthy relationships allow both people to have needs. Someone may be disappointed that you cannot help immediately. Disappointment is uncomfortable, but it is not always harmful. People can survive waiting, solving part of a problem themselves, or asking someone else. Your constant availability may have prevented them from recognizing their own abilities. Sometimes stepping back allows others to grow. It also helps you understand which people appreciate you as a person and which people value only what you provide. Someone who cares about you will not want your help at the cost of your health. You do not have to explain your exhaustion in perfect detail to make it valid. You may not have one dramatic reason for feeling tired. Exhaustion can come from many small pressures collected over time. Emotional labor, uncertainty, poor sleep, responsibility, constant decisions, and unspoken pain can slowly empty you. Do not compare your tiredness with someone else's suffering. Another person's difficult life does not remove your need for rest. Compassion is not a limited resource that must be given only to the person suffering most. You can care about others while also caring for yourself. Your pain does not need to win a competition before it deserves attention. If something is affecting your health and peace, it matters. You can acknowledge gratitude for what is good in your life while still admitting that you are tired. Gratitude and exhaustion can exist together. You can love your work and still need a break from it. You can appreciate your family and still need time alone. You can feel fortunate and still experience emotional pain. Buddhist awareness allows different truths to exist without forcing one to cancel the other. You do not need to deny difficulty to prove that you are grateful. Honest gratitude is stronger than pretending everything is fine. Sometimes guilt comes from the belief that other people are working while you are resting. You imagine that they are moving ahead and that you must return quickly. But you do not know whether their pace is healthy or whether they are also ignoring their needs. Do not copy another person's self-neglect and call it discipline. The fact that unhealthy habits are common does not make them wise. A culture may praise exhaustion, but your body still experiences the consequences. You have the right to question values that require people to become sick before they are considered hard-working. You can choose a different definition of commitment, one that includes balance and humanity. Slowing down may require practical changes. You may need to reduce unnecessary commitments, divide large tasks into smaller steps, or stop volunteering for every responsibility. You may need to protect certain hours for sleep and stop treating them as available time. Look honestly at your routine. Which activities are necessary and which exist only because you fear saying no? Which responsibilities belong to you, and which have become yours because others know you will always agree? You may discover that your exhaustion is not only caused by how much you do, but by how little choice you feel you have. Even a small task can feel heavy when it comes from pressure. A difficult task can feel meaningful when it is chosen with intention. Restore choice where possible. Before agreeing, pause and ask whether you truly have the capacity. When a task is necessary, decide how it can be completed without demanding perfection. Not everything needs your highest level of effort. Perfectionism creates exhaustion by making every task feel equally important. You may spend too much time on small details because you fear criticism or failure. You believe that anything less than perfect is unacceptable, so simple work becomes mentally heavy. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, which can also apply to results. You can make a sincere effort without demanding a perfect outcome. You can complete something well enough and release it. You can accept that mistakes are part of learning. This does not mean becoming careless. It means recognizing when extra effort no longer creates meaningful improvement. Wisdom knows when to stop. Ask yourself whether you are improving the work or only trying to calm your fear. Sometimes, repeated checking, changing and worrying are not signs of quality. They are signs that the mind cannot tolerate uncertainty. Allow something to be complete, even if it is not flawless. Let an ordinary day be enough. Let your effort be human. This releases energy for what truly matters. You may also need to slow down emotionally. Some people pressure themselves to forgive, move on, become positive, or feel better before they are ready. They believe healing should happen quickly because the event is already over. But the end of an event does not always mean the end of its effect. Your mind may understand that something has passed, while your body still responds with fear. Give yourself time. Emotional healing cannot be completed by command. You can support it through awareness, rest, boundaries, and honest reflection, but you cannot force your heart to follow a deadline. Guilt about healing slowly only creates another wound. When you tell yourself, "I should be over this," you reject the part of you that is still hurting. A kinder response is, "This still affects me, and I am learning how to carry it differently." You do not need to stay trapped in pain, but movement can be gentle. Some days, progress may mean taking action. Other days, it may mean not returning to an old pattern. Sometimes it may simply mean allowing yourself to feel without making the situation worse. Healing is often quiet. It may not feel powerful while it is happening. You may only notice later that you respond differently, think less often about what hurt you, or recover more quickly when sadness returns. Trust these small changes. Do not dismiss them because they are not dramatic. A peaceful life is built through ordinary choices, repeated with patience. You may fear that slowing down will cause people to forget you or stop valuing you. Perhaps you believe that you must remain visible, helpful, and productive to keep your place in their lives. This fear can keep you constantly available, but relationships that depend entirely on what you provide are not secure. If someone values you only when you are useful, their approval will always require sacrifice. True connection allows you to be tired, quiet, imperfect, and unavailable sometimes. You do not need to perform strength to deserve love. You do not need to solve every problem to remain important. The people who genuinely care about you will not disappear because you rested. Some relationships may change when you stop overgiving. This can be painful, but it can also reveal the truth. When you no longer carry the whole connection, you discover whether the other person is willing to meet you halfway. Let this understanding guide you without making you bitter. Not everyone who depended on you was intentionally using you. They may simply have become accustomed to the role you repeatedly accepted. Changing that role may require clear communication and patience. Say what you can and cannot continue doing. Give others the chance to adjust. At the same time, notice whether your boundaries are consistently respected. Healing requires both compassion and discernment. You are allowed to create a life in which your peace is not always the first thing sacrificed. This may mean choosing fewer commitments, a simpler routine, or relationships with less emotional confusion. It may mean accepting slower progress in exchange for better health. The world may not celebrate this choice. People often admire visible achievement more than invisible balance. They may praise someone for working all night, but never praise the wisdom of going to sleep. You do not need external approval for a decision that protects your well-being. Your body experiences your life more directly than the people judging it. They may admire your productivity without carrying your exhaustion. Listen to the quiet information within you. Notice when your breathing becomes shallow, when your patience disappears, and when simple tasks begin feeling impossible. These are signals, not inconveniences to defeat. Respond earlier. Do not wait until rest is no longer a choice. A forced pause caused by complete collapse is much harder than a chosen pause made with awareness. Give yourself regular periods of recovery, not only emergency rest. Rest should be part of your life, not a final rescue after you have ignored every warning. Create a rhythm that allows effort and stillness to support one another. Nature follows rhythm. Day becomes night, seasons change, and living things move between activity and restoration. Nothing in nature remains in constant production. A field that is never allowed to recover eventually loses its ability to grow. You are not separate from this truth. Your mind and body also need cycles. There are times to act, create, and give effort. There are also times to become quiet, receive care, and restore what has been used. Do not call one season more valuable than the other. Rest is not empty time between meaningful actions. It is one of the actions that keeps life meaningful. As you learn to slow down, notice what returns. Your creativity may become clearer. Your patience may grow. You may begin enjoying small things again. You may feel more present in conversations and more connected to your own decisions. These qualities were not gone forever. They were buried beneath exhaustion. You did not need to become a completely different person. You needed enough space for yourself to return. There may be grief in realizing how long you lived without this space. You may think about years spent rushing, pleasing, and proving. Do not use this awareness to punish yourself. Let it become a reason to live differently now. You did what you believed was necessary. Perhaps pushing helped you survive a difficult season. It gave you structure, distraction, or a sense of control. Thank the part of you that kept going, but also let it know that constant survival is no longer the only option. You can become safe enough to slow down. You can create a life where strength includes rest. You can stop waiting for permission from people who may never understand your needs. Permission can come from you. You can decide that your health matters before a crisis proves it. You can choose sleep before exhaustion becomes unbearable. You can pause while there are still things left to do. There will always be something left to do. Accepting this can be freeing. You do not need to complete the entire world before you close your eyes tonight. Your responsibility is not to finish everything. It is to live wisely within your human limits. Choose one stopping point. Decide that after a certain task, the day is complete. When the mind tries to add another responsibility, remind it that continuing is possible tomorrow. Practicing a stopping point can help your nervous system understand that work does not last forever. Create transitions between effort and rest. Take a breath when work ends. Change your surroundings. Wash your face. Step outside or sit quietly for a moment. These actions tell the mind that it can release the pressure of the day. Do not carry every conversation into the night. Some words cannot be changed by replaying them. Some misunderstandings cannot be solved while everyone is emotional. Give the situation space. Sleep is not avoidance when your mind no longer has the clarity to respond wisely. Returning tomorrow with greater calm may protect everyone involved. You are allowed to delay a response until you can speak without causing more harm. You may feel guilty because someone is waiting, but an immediate answer is not always the kindest answer. A thoughtful response can be more respectful than a quick one created from pressure. Slowing down creates room for choice. You stop living as though every demand must control your next movement. You learn that a pause can exist between a request and your answer, between emotion and reaction, and between exhaustion and another task. Inside that pause, freedom appears. You may still choose to help, continue, or work harder, but the choice becomes conscious. You are no longer being driven automatically by guilt and fear. This is an important part of Buddhist practice, becoming aware of the forces that move you. Are you acting from compassion or from fear of rejection? Are you working from purpose or from self-hatred? Are you helping because you genuinely can, or because you cannot tolerate disappointing someone? The same action can create different consequences depending on its source. A yes given freely can feel meaningful. A yes given from fear can create resentment. Effort guided by purpose can strengthen you. Effort guided by shame can slowly destroy your peace. Slowing down helps you recognize the source. You begin making choices that are more honest, even when they are not easy. You may choose to rest while guilt speaks, but you no longer allow guilt to make every decision. Over time, the guilt becomes quieter. Your mind learns that rest does not create disaster. People adapt, tasks remain manageable, and life continues. You begin trusting that you can pause without losing everything. This trust is healing. It changes the relationship between you and your responsibilities. You no longer see every task as a test of your worth. You complete what matters, release what does not, and care for the person doing the work. You become less impressed by exhaustion and more interested in balance. You stop admiring the version of yourself who could carry endless pain and begin respecting the version who knows when enough is enough. Enough does not mean you have completed everything. It means you have reached the limit of what can be done wisely today. Saying enough is not failure. It is awareness. Perhaps enough for today means closing your laptop, turning off your phone, and allowing the room to become quiet. Perhaps it means leaving one conversation unresolved. Perhaps it means telling someone that you cannot help until tomorrow. The exact action will be different for everyone, but the lesson remains the same. You are allowed to stop before you break. You do not need to justify every moment of rest. You do not need a dramatic illness, breakdown, or tragedy before your tiredness becomes valid. You can listen while the signals are still quiet. Let your body relax without asking whether it has earned relaxation. Let your mind be unfinished without treating uncertainty like danger. Let yourself be human without converting every day into a performance. You will still have goals. You will still face responsibilities and difficult seasons. Slowing down does not remove your strength. It helps you use your strength without wasting it on unnecessary suffering. The strongest person is not always the one who continues the longest. Sometimes it is the person who recognizes that another step would come from fear rather than wisdom. They pause, recover, and return with clearer direction. Give yourself that kind of strength. Do not measure courage only by what you can endure. Measure it also by your willingness to protect what exhaustion has been taking from you. You are allowed to slow down without feeling guilty. You are allowed to take care of yourself before everyone understands. You are allowed to choose a rhythm that does not require constant recovery. Your life does not need to become smaller when you rest. It can become deeper. You can notice more, feel more, and live with greater intention. You can move forward without rushing past yourself. Let the guilt speak, but do not let it lead. Let wisdom remind you that rest is not abandonment of your purpose. It is a way of remaining healthy enough to continue living that purpose. For today, do what can be done with care. Release what must wait. Take one slow breath and allow the moment to be complete, even while parts of life remain unfinished. You have given enough energy for now. Nothing about your worth depends on pushing beyond your limits tonight. Rest without apology, slow down without shame, and trust that tomorrow does not require you to arrive already exhausted. You cannot heal while constantly forcing yourself to keep going. There are moments when strength means continuing, but there are also moments when strength means stopping before you completely lose yourself. Buddhism teaches that balance, awareness, and compassion are just as important as effort. Rest does not mean you are lazy, weak, or falling behind. It means you are listening to your body, respecting your limits, and giving your mind the space it needs to recover. You do not have to finish everything before you are allowed to pause. Let go of the guilt that tells you to keep pushing when you are already exhausted. Some problems can wait, some people can wait, and some decisions will become clearer after you rest. Healing begins when you stop fighting yourself and start treating yourself with the same kindness you freely give to others. Take a breath, slow down, and allow yourself to be still. You have carried enough for today. Sometimes the best thing you can do is pause, rest, and heal.